Good afternoon, everyone. Gabe Velazquez here with you, transparenttrading Hopefully, everybody had a great week and you didn't get run over if you were short, right? Yeah, we had a fantastic week at TTS. The irony was our best trade this week was actually a short on Dollar General. We were long some puts in front of the earnings. I don't know if you looked at that stock. Thing was down like 30 points. And so we did really well with that. Obviously, not all trades work out and so forth. We also are still trading in Tesla. We picked up a little bit on the Tesla calls this week. So we were kind of, on the options front. So welcome, everybody, again. This is Friday, Jan 2. Hopefully, everybody's we're finally getting some action, and the index is finally kind of breaking out a little bit. So very interesting. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to run a class coming up. If you want any information on that, hit the link below, support@transparenttrading-solutions.com. We are, options are really doing great last couple of weeks. We've had some really tremendous last couple of weeks again. No guarantee for anything, but futures are also starting to perk up. So we'll get into that in a second. What was interesting today, let me just go over a few kind of notables. We had the VIX breaking 15. It's sitting right close to 14, which, by the way, coincidentally, was the 14 was the low on the VIX when the market peaked last January. So that's going to be interesting to see if we do break, we may get into a new kind of paradigm where the VIX maybe trades from 10 up to 20. We've been basically this last little pullback we had with the debt ceiling. We actually came right back up to 20. Remember talking about 20, and now we're back down to 14. So that, coupled with the fact that the S&P is right, the futures now are right up against the August highs. On the futures, on the SPY, which is something we've been looking at, the SPY is also at 430, which again happens to coincide with last August highs. If you recall, that was when that was Jackson Hole, when Powell came out swinging, whatever, said there was going to be some pain, and the market basically just sold off into the October low. So it's going to be really, really fascinating what next week brings as all these markets are coming right into, especially the S&P. The small caps, I've been talking about the small caps maybe playing catch up. They had a tremendous rally today, maybe a rotation. And what's also notable is the big semi, IE stocks. If you look at, for instance, NVIDIA, that was down today. AMD was down today. We had that MongoDB, which is another just a monstrous move there. But that's one beauty about options is right now these earnings are just tremendous opportunity. So I'll be having a class on that coming up if you're interested in learning about what I'm doing on the options front, because that's really where we're really having some tremendous success. Okay, all right. So let's get into the levels, everybody. On the S&P futures, we remember I talked about not every level works, and a lot of these levels get blown out if you're getting short here. We are now coming into 4,300. There's 43. There's 43 right above 4,300, and all the way up to the highs from August, which is around 43.27. There's some levels. The best level is actually above that. I love these levels that come in above a pivot. So there's some levels above that. So those are the shorting levels coming up, which we're probably going to take in the futures market. Also, that coincides with that 430 level on the SPY. And, we've been more or less using Tesla as a high beta. It's got about a 1.5 beta to the S&P. If you get a chance, put up Tesla against the SPY or the S&P futures, and you can see how closely correlated it is. And we've been using that more or less as a proxy because, quite honestly, I mean, if you been trying to get long in the S&P futures, there haven't been a ton of quality levels unless you're playing breakouts or whatever. So that's kind of where we're at on the S&P. The Nasdaq was believe it or not, was the laggard today, right? It was the small caps that really, came out today. But the remember we took out the August highs in the Nasdaq last week, and now we're actually at we still have we're actually up around another level right around that 14K area on the Nasdaq future. So those are the levels I'm looking at, and more or less the S&P is really now this with the S&P and the Dow having a really strong rally today. I know everybody's been talking about how narrow the rally is, what do they call it, the Magnificent Seven, the seven big mega cap: Apple, Microsoft, Tesla's in there too, by the way, Nvidia, Meta. You get the idea. We had a broadening of the rally today with energy stocks doing really well today and so forth. So it's going to be interesting. And then obviously the standout was the small caps. So this is going to be, the small caps are breaking out. 1825. If you look at your chart, we've been talking about 1825 as the breakout point on the small caps. You had a huge rally in small caps today. Whether that carries, we'll have to see. Incidentally, there's some really nice levels coming up, distribution levels on the small caps, right around 1900, which would be something. I mean, we're still about 70 points away from that. So what I'm really excited about is the fact that a lot of these, we've had a lot of chop and range trading in these averages, and it looks like we're finally getting some action on that. So next week's going to be, we're really looking forward to maybe engaging more into the futures side of the equation here, where we're basically just been very active on the option side and doing very, very well with that. Okay. All right. So, if you get a pullback back into the range here, we were looking at, again, remember that 1700 level that's been holding. We never came down to that 1729 level that I mentioned to you, but there's another level, 1775 on the Russell, that could be a pullback as well, and then up top around the 1900. So those will be levels to look at next week. Bonds, the 30-year, we did get a reversal on the bond market today. The 30-year 129 was the old support that broke down. We went all the way to 125, and then now it's become the old resistance. We came up there. This morning, in fact, and sold off about a point. So that's just a simple, old resistance, old support in this case becoming new resistance. That's pretty clear cut. We again, because the levels are so huge on the future side, there's a bunch of levels on the 10-year and stuff where the action has been recently is in the bond market, and it looks like we're still going to get some more action in the bond market. On the 10-year, we actually came off a really nice looking level at about 115, and came off pretty good. There's still some levels below around 112 on the 10-year if you trade in the bond market. Looking at the dollar came right up to 104.5, 104.78, level off a pivot. I think I mentioned that last Tuesday I was on here. We came off, and now we rallied right back up. So again, why did the dollar rally? I think if you watch the video if you haven't, go back and look at the Tuesday video, or maybe even the previous several videos, I talk about how interest rates are driving the dollar and they're matching. So you notice today, rates went up as the bond market went down, and that pushed the dollar back up again. right? So for the last couple of days, rates rates kept falling and falling. Falling and falling, and now you see a reversal all the way around. So we still have to get through 105, I would say, on the dollar. We're kind of in no man's land at the moment. That also brought down, like, I remember we were talking about the yen. The yen looked like it was going higher, and now it's turned right back down. So there's still a chance for the yen to fill us. We're trying to get long yen back down at that 71 level. You can see that level there. So that's a possibility there. All the other currencies, really, the peso looked like it was moving higher as well. I think I've been talking about that. That's still a chance we could go higher. It looks like the peso may head up to that monthly, weekly distribution area, which we're looking to get short right up around that 58 level. You can see that on your charts as well. And everything just reversed. I mean, all the calm dolls came, the New Zealand, Aussie, Canada's just been all over the place, still kind of largely range trading. So we're kind of staying away from that. So the currencies I would focus on if you're futures traders are the yen, the Mexican peso for now, and then possibly the New Zealand. If we can get a really nice pop in New Zealand, there's some really nice levels where it got, it basically broke down after they announced that they were stopping their interest rate there. So that comes in around the 60, let's call it 63 on New Zealand. Okay. Then going into the metals, not a lot going on there. Just a bunch of chop, gold, silver, platinum. Gold has just been largely bouncing around 2000, actually hit close to 2002, down to it's about a 40 $60 range, but nothing really exciting there, just kind of back and forth. The key level to watch on gold is 1940. If it breaks down through that, then I think we probably, and it looks to me like it, especially if the dollar keeps going, we're probably heading back down to 1900 on gold. But generally speaking, if you look at that chart, it's just a big old mess, just all kind of chop. So there's nothing that we've been focused on there. Again, in a chop, we don't even bother. There's just nothing to do there. And one of the things that's great that just happened, especially today after the non-farm payrolls, was we're finally getting some traction. Price extension is what we love to see going into levels, and that's happening in the indexes. So we're going to be primed and ready to do something with that. Energy, gold, oil, all over the place as well. Looked like it was going to break down earlier this week. Came down to 67, right on the button. Was no level there. We actually were in a small trade there. We got stopped out of that with a very tiny loss. We only did 1 micro on that. And now right back up again, heading back up to possibly 75 or lower. Big range. I would just call it 83 and a half, possibly down to 68. I would still deem that a big range market with oil. We got OPEC coming up this weekend. Remember last time they came out and they basically told us that they were going to cut production, and we got that big gap up to the resistance at 83, kind of hovered there, and then just gave it all back plus. I mean, we came from from 83, as you know, all the way back down to like 60. With this ricochet kind of big old pivot down to 63. And now we're back kind of in the middle part of the range, no man's land. So oil has been very tricky unless you want to be super nimble and trade these smaller time frames, which, as you know, you may have some success trading these small time frames in the chop, but ultimately, you know how that pans out. So I don't need to tell you that. So. But all in all, I would say we still looking to get short around 75. We'll see what happens over the weekend. We'll see what happens with OPEC, and go from there on oil. Also, by the way, USO. If you want to take a longer term position, maybe with an option or whatever, USO actually came in, that low on oil futures came into a gap around 60 bucks on the USO. So one of the things that we've been doing here at TTS is not just looking at the futures market, but also looking at, for instance, the SPY, USO, and oil, because some of the levels in the USO will actually guide you better than the futures. Because if you look at the futures contract with all the rollover and all that kind of stuff, you can see that we actually didn't have any level where it turned. Maybe I think there was like a moving average or something in there. But if you look at the USO, that actually was a really clean. That low from this week came into a gap area on the USO, and it's rallied up about 4 points off that as well. So you may want to start looking at that, and then taking a little bit longer term view. That's the beauty about options, is you don't have to worry about stopping out and all that jazz with futures and so forth. So, but that's something to we'll see what happens with OPEC this weekend. It's going to be interesting to see how oil responds to OPEC, and obviously what they're going to say about about more production cuts or whatever. So that obviously didn't work for them last time, and it rarely does. Anytime like a government wants to manipulate the currency by intervening and all that, that's just a short-term phenomenon. It's the same thing with oil. They try to manipulate it by saying, oh, we're going to raise. I mean, yeah, it did create that gap, but ultimately it failed, right? I mean, it's just, once we got up to that resistance level at 83, that was all she wrote. And then we actually, gave all of it back. So again, it's just kind of a short term, and that's great because it'll get you to levels, but ultimately, the charts and the markets are going to do what they're going to do. All that does is just accelerate price in the near term to where it was going to go in the meantime. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Nat gas, nothing really happening there. Just same old, just lackluster kind of trading. Looks like it's headed back down to 2, and it may even break 2, by the way. Look at a long-term chart of nat gas. It bottomed at 150. There's still a chance nat gas goes to 150, by the way. Wouldn't rule that out entirely. But generally speaking, it's just very lackluster trading. We're out of that entirely. We haven't looked at it. We're going to be focused on futures trading in that. But even as you look at this week, there hasn't been a ton of activity in nat gas. But again, that can change very quickly. As you know, nat gas is one of those type of markets. Grains, lots of action in the grains. We've been talking about that. Encourage everybody to look at the grain markets. Soybeans trying to break out. We actually wanted to get long soybeans. We've been, we just haven't been able to get to our levels. And now soybeans want to break out. Looks like if you look at that, we were kind of chopping around. Earlier in the week, we were down about 30, 40 points and reverse tail really quickly, come right back up again. Looking at about 14 a bushel for possibly short, and any kind of pullback still. If we can take out 1350, we still want to buy pullbacks up to the 14 a bushel area. And similarly, we did hit 575 on wheat. That needs to break out above, let's say, 625, and that could bring us all the way back to 660. And then corn, similar. So the grains are perking up also. So there may be some opportunity there in the grain market. There's a big gap in the corn up to about 660, which looks pretty good. And I think that pretty much sums it up, everybody. So futures have been pretty dormant. The averages have been kind of chopping. We finally looks like we're getting a break. All the action, and this is again where we're spending most of our time, is in the earnings play. As you know, even like MongoDB and all that. That's really one of the things. Again, if you're too one-dimensional and you don't understand options or how the stocks work, that's where we've had our best couple of weeks just trading Tesla with options, and that Dollar General. That was a monstrous trade for us this week. I mean, that literally, we picked up almost 25 points on that thing. and you can look it up. It's Dollar General DG. We came in right before the earnings. That's one of the things if you guys have been with me, or I talk about that, having we call that the earnings play, using options, expecting a tremendous move out of that, and we did catch that one. So that was really fortunate for our members. Again, but you got to understand how that actually works. So if you want to learn something like that, I think I'm going to have a class about that. So go on to the link, just write us and say you're interested in learning about that, and we'll get you a class. I think I'm going to do a class coming up on that. Okay. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm excited about next week, with the averages finally breaking out, finally getting some price extension coming out of all this chop. And that really presents some really great opportunities. And also the options market, now that the VIX is at 14, great venue to, because option premiums are so cheap that really also increases the possibility of trading options on the long side, and catching some of these moves in some of these stocks, especially in the tech sector and so forth. Okay. All right, everybody. Have a great weekend. Again, hit the links below. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Thank you, Ted. Have a great weekend, everybody.